The Fiscal record, the $200 million crash. On March 23, 2009, at 6:48 in the morning, a $200 million aircraft became a fireball on the runway at Tokyo's Narita International Airport. A FedEx Express cargo jet, carrying nothing but freight and 2 pilots, crashed while landing in gusty winds. Both pilots were dead before emergency crews could get them to the hospital. But this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call about fatigue, decision-making, and what happens when safety systems fail under pressure. Let's talk about the players. Captain and first officer, the 2 men in that cockpit that morning, were the only people aboard FedEx Express Flight 80. This wasn't a passenger flight. It was a cargo operation, which meant less regulatory oversight, longer shifts, and crews that were pushed harder than commercial airline pilots. The captain had logged thousands of flight hours. The first officer, the co-pilot, was more experienced than you might think. But experience doesn't protect you from fatigue. Both men had been working long hours across multiple time zones. The co-pilot, specifically, was managing fatigue from back-to-back flights across the Pacific. FedEx, like all cargo operators, was operating in a system designed to maximize efficiency, which often meant minimizing rest. On the other side were the weather gods, and they were angry. That morning at Narita, winds were gusting over 40 knots, that's about 46 miles per hour, with highly variable conditions. Wind shear, which means the wind direction and speed changing rapidly at different altitudes, was present. These are the kinds of conditions that demand perfect execution. They demand alert, rested pilots. That's not what was in the cockpit that morning. Here's how it happened. Flight 80 departed Guangzhou, China, on a routine cargo run. The aircraft was an MD-11F, a massive, 3-engine wide-body freighter. These planes are workhorses of the cargo industry. The flight took off normally. Everything was fine. But as the aircraft approached Narita for landing, those gusty winds became a serious problem. The co-pilot was flying the aircraft. This is standard, the captain supervises while the first officer handles the controls. But the co-pilot was fatigued. His reaction times were slower. His decision-making was impaired. As the aircraft descended toward runway 34 left, he delayed the start of the landing flare. That's the maneuver where you pitch the nose up slightly to slow the descent and prepare for touchdown. This delay was critical. It meant the aircraft was coming in too fast and at the wrong angle. Then came the mistakes that killed him. To compensate, the co-pilot made excessive, abrupt inputs, nose-down corrections that were far too large. These violent pitch changes destabilized the aircraft. The plane bounced. Once. Twice. Multiple times. Each bounce was harder than the last. The landing gear, designed to absorb a single impact at a certain angle, couldn't handle the repeated, violent touchdowns. The left main landing gear collapsed. Then the right gear failed. With no landing gear supporting it, the aircraft's wing began grinding into the tarmac. The friction, the metal-on-metal contact, the immense forces involved, it tore the left wing clean off the aircraft. The plane rolled inverted. Fuel ignited. Fire consumed the fuselage in seconds. The crash happened at 6:48 a.m. local time. By 7:15 a.m., the captain and first officer were pronounced dead from burns and injuries sustained in the impact. Both men died not from a mechanical failure, but from a chain of human factors: fatigue, variable weather, delayed decision-making, and overcorrection. Let's talk about the fallout. FedEx lost a $200 million aircraft. That's a direct financial loss. But the real cost was human. 2 experienced pilots were dead. Their families lost fathers, husbands, and providers. The aviation industry faced hard questions about cargo pilot fatigue regulations. At the time, cargo pilots didn't have the same mandatory rest requirements as passenger airline crews. That disparity in regulation meant cargo operators could push their crews harder. The crash at Narita exposed that gap. The investigation revealed something else: the co-pilot's fatigue was preventable. Better crew rest policies, better scheduling, better limits on consecutive flights, these things could have prevented that crash. Within 2 years, the FAA tightened fatigue regulations for cargo operators. But it took 2 dead pilots and a $250 million loss to make it happen. The lesson here isn't about aviation specifically. It's about systems. When we optimize only for efficiency, when we cut rest and recovery to maximize output, we create conditions for failure. Safety requires redundancy. Safety requires rest. Safety requires acknowledging human limitations. This video is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the Fiscal Record.